Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Curriculum Committee meeting of the San Luis CISD Board of Trustees. Today is Monday, April 2nd, 2018, at exactly 6:07. I call this meeting to order. Second item on the agenda is the review and discussion of the UTRGV SBCISD Interlocal Cooperation Contract for the 2018 Text Prep Summer Program and 2018-2019 school year. Dr. Carmen?
I'm waiting for my agenda to load. Mr. Madrigal, I think that's yours, is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mendez, this is just us asking that we continue this program that we've had in the past, and that we would fund it for the kids that have been identified to attend this, the kids that have been identified in our junior highs to attend this summer program.
Mr. Madrigal, do you have the total number of participation from last year and the total anticipated number for this year?
I do not have last year's, and I believe this year's number is approximately 15 kids. I have the list, I just don't have it in front of me.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions for the UTRGV SBCISD Interlocal Cooperation Contract? Thank you, Mr. Madrigal. Next item on the agenda is the overview of roles and responsibilities, objectives, and SWOT analysis of the Director of Elementary Instructional Implementation.
I think that Mrs. Cruz had to go home sick this afternoon. Is that right, Mr. Madrigal?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mendez, Ms. Cruz is not here today.
Okay. So, if you don't mind, could you move this item to the next Curriculum Committee meeting, Dr. Carmen? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the overview and roles and responsibilities, objectives, and SWOT analysis of the Director of Secondary Instructional Implementation.
Mrs. Cervellon is here. She'll be happy to present.
Barely here, but I'm here. Good evening. So I'm going to quickly review with you what you have, the document you have in front of you. These are my responsibilities as correlated to what I do as Director of Secondary Instructional Implementation. Under strengths, I've listed that I have administrative experience at the elementary and secondary level. I have a strong background in curriculum and instruction, background in finance and business, in-depth understanding of state, federal, and local budgets. I also am highly visible on campuses, and I participate at PLCs, conduct campus-level meetings, also conduct principal and dean meetings. This year, we streamlined the amount of supplemental resources that are being utilized at the secondary level, and I've also made recommendations on strategies to improve effectiveness at very different ventures, not only curriculum and instruction, also attendance, discipline, master scheduling, budgeting, etc. Areas of weakness that I want to focus on is to continue to grow in the area of instructional implementation for English language learners at the secondary level. I also feel that I need to continue to emphasize and make time to do more teacher walkthroughs. My communication skills in Spanish, continue to build on those, and bridging the gap between elementary and secondary. On the second page, I do have how I am addressing my weaknesses. As you can see, I've listed continue with additional professional development in the area of ESL education, English language learners. Also, continue to research successful programs and reach out to districts that do have successful ESL programs at the secondary level. Intentionally block off time slots twice a week so that I can go in and do those walkthroughs and then debrief with campus administration. Continue to build on my Spanish vocabulary through continual practice. Review benchmark, CFA, attendance, and state testing data with elementary staff once a month. Review supplemental K-12 materials usage and also evaluate if the usage is being impactful for student growth. And then also evaluate supplemental online usage and student growth monthly. If we look at the opportunities that I see, building in camps and special programs into the instructional day, also after school, on the weekends, on Saturdays, so that we can continue to enrich for our students. Implement blended learning models in all classrooms to maximize the usage of our technology, hardware, and software, for that matter. Grow our staff in high areas of need, and use the budget to provide supplemental support, and of course, with fidelity. The threats that I think we can overcome is shifting the status quo paradigm for students, staff, and community, and hold our kids to that high level of expectations we want. Students with instructional gaps that are more than 2 grade levels below. Media that can tend to focus sometimes on the negative aspects of an issue. And professional development that is not targeted and geared towards our staff's and students' needs. So on the second page again, how to address the threats. Continue to focus on ensuring students graduate college, career, and military ready. Continue to focus on creating systems at the district level as well as the campus level. Develop written administrative procedures and processes in collaboration with campus and administration and teachers. Celebrate all our staff and student successes at the campus and district level as deemed appropriate. Highlight student and staff through KSBG and through local news venues. Use our T-test goals so that we can identify professional development opportunities and implement mandatory professional development sessions for district initiatives. Do I have any questions, or would you like elaboration?
No, well, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to note, I love that you included as a threat the shifting of the status quo paradigm, because I think that's what we're working on and have been. I would love to hear just some examples, because I know you've been with the district for a while, and some of these status quos that you've experienced and how either you've successfully transformed them now, or there's some that are still lingering that you're working on.
I would say that, to give you an example, one of the major ones that I would see, or that I see, is that, okay, well, the students have met expectations on our state assessment, and that's at a marginal level, at a 50%, at a 39%, whatever the state standard is. And just making sure that we understand that we want all our students to be at that level where they're at the mastered level. And I see that shift happening now, where we're looking at data that way, where, oh yes, we had 80% pass at a 50% mastery, but is that what we want for our kids? And does that mean they're prepared for the next grade level? So that starts with us and, of course, the students.
Thank you.
And I'll segue from Michael. In regards to the conversations with instruction, are y'all utilizing any data on a one-to-one with teachers that had performed low in the past? And what are y'all doing in regards to making sure that they're implementing strategies to help students improve in the secondary level?
Okay, so we really actually, during PLCs, we get right down to individual students. As a matter of fact, Dr. Carmen and Mr. Madrigal have asked that we look at our bubble kids. So we have all submitted plans of action by campuses, and we're looking at our bubble kids right now, those kids that need, 5 more to meet standard, or to, get to where they need to be, those kids that need 5 more to get to the next level, and so on. And so we've created very intentional, specific targets for these students, and also prescribed very intentional, specific activities and instructional formats for these students.
Just one last time. And I'm assuming that that's the one that you're having the 2 grade level on your addressing threats. Was it on that one?
Well, students that are 2 grade levels below may or may not be our bubble kids. When I say students that are 2 grade levels below, as you know, that there's 2 standard deviations below. So if you're a 6th grader and you're reading at a 4th grade level, sometimes even lower, what are we doing for those students? How are we individualizing for them so that we can really target their specific needs? Because once we establish and we have the data, how is the data driving the instruction for that student?
Okay, great. Ms. Albion, I'd like to thank you very much for providing us with this information. I know sometimes it's difficult in many cases, and I know that I've had some conversations with other personnel in regards to a SWOT analysis on their roles and responsibilities, but I do appreciate you coming forward with this information because it does help me to understand what else is going on out there. And as I mentioned in the past, that our role and my role as a curriculum committee chair is to pretty much share the information that is delivered by you all, the experts. At the end of the day, it's you all that are making our district move forward, and I really appreciate you providing us with this information, and thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Albion, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
As far as, I think you touched upon in your threads, which is very important, is the whole negativity aspect of the issues. For some reason, of course, we can sit here and talk about this all day long, but what do you think, or what are you, give me some examples, I guess, and how would you change the perspective of the negativity and why it's so honed in on all the time for some reason?
Well, I guess the best way to change that is to start with our staff and how we address issues. So instead of going into maybe panic mode or giving out misinformation, really looking at a situation, breaking it down, getting to the core issue, and then communicating the message we want to communicate. Of course, from there, we're going to learn. And I know that if we put in those systems in place and those processes across the board, that would alleviate a lot of that happening.
That's very well said, Ms. Albion, because as we sit here, representing our constituents, a lot of the times that negativity is always around us. But, it's like you say, and it's one of the things that, when I see this and I see, your presentation here, it's, and speaking to our administration, it's really, pleasing to me, okay, to see the way our district is headed now. And how the morale is changing our district and so on and so forth. But, this negativity, I think, it's a cultural deal that I think that as a whole, as an organization, I think we can change it and turn it around. And I think it's moving in a positive direction. But I thank you so much for actually exposing that and just, and saying it, because it could be detrimental to our district. But thank you so much. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the follow-up on data for library services. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Carmen, and everybody else here at the meeting tonight. My name is Mandy Martinez. I'm the district library coordinator. And as you may recall, in February, I presented to you on the district library services. And some bits of information were requested from me, so I'm here following up on that. And the first item was, that was requested was that the librarians would review the MyOn books to see their relevance to the TICs being taught in the classroom. And I did speak to the librarians. I asked them to go ahead and go into their accounts, review the books, do some searches, tell me what they think about the books. At the elementary level, the librarians are very pleased with MyOn. They especially like that teachers have the ability, the capability to search for books by TICs. And when you see the results, when you search up a TIC, see the results, they give you a good amount of books according to the TICs. The students are using the app on a regular basis. They would like to see, however, more fiction books in the collection because MyOn has about 6,000 books, ebooks on it. And in the secondary level, the librarians are having difficulty with getting the students and the teachers on board. But if you see on the third and fourth page that I put on your packets, we just recently found out that Renaissance, the company that owns AR, has just newly acquired Mayan. So Mayan is going to be part of Renaissance. And they are going to have packets where you can have both programs together, or you can purchase a license for each one individually. We were also asked if we would recommend other resources. The librarians, of course, they really like AR. And most of the campuses, the elementary campuses and the middle school campuses, do use AR in their campuses. They like it, they favor it over Mayan because, of course, there are so many more quizzes than Mayan. Mayan is limited to the 6,000 books it has. And, but now that they're going to be, they're both on Renaissance, they might be considering maybe buying the packets where they have
And
both.
this, Ms. Martinez, that was going to be my question, and maybe a naive question, but is there opportunity to streamline the quizzes on Accelerated Reader? And given the new 6,000 books from the Mayan, have you, and I haven't read the article because I just got it, but is there going to be opportunity for streamlining and make it easier to take quizzes on the Mayan books, given that that's been the focus in the district the last couple of months?
I called the company, but they weren't able to give me much information yet. I think they're working on something for next school year. I know that from Mayan, the students can read the books, and if it has an AR quiz, the link is right there, so they can just access the quiz from there.
So even before the merger,
Mm-hmm.
there were actual quizzes kids would be able to take
Yes.
on Mayan. Okay, got it.
And another resource that was suggested by one of the librarians, the librarian at Dr. Cash, Olga Mendez, is Who's Reading. And she's very excited, very passionate about it because she says that the quizzes on there are more open-ended questions, higher thinking questions. So I asked the librarians at the March meeting to go ahead and review the program, see what information we can get on it. And at our April meeting, we're going to get together and discuss it, and then I can provide you some more feedback on that program. Because AR, you read the book, and then you take the quiz, but those are just multiple choices. And depending on the length of the book and the difficulty, you can have 5, 10, or 20 questions on the book. But these are open-ended, so that's something we'll be discussing at the April meeting, and I will get back to you on that.
Could you remind me, is AR web-based?
Yes.
It is
it's
web-based?
Uh-huh.
So are students able to take the assessment at home?
Some of the students are, it depends on the campus. You can put restrictions on it where the students can only test on school. And I know at the school I was at when we had AR, they wanted to have, more fairness, so some students don't have internet access at home, so they said, okay, from this time to this time, students will be able to test only on campus. So, but they are able to. I mean, the capability is there to be able to test at home.
Aside from cheating, is there any reason why it shouldn't be allowed at home? I'm, looking at some of the students that are out there, and they're very avid readers and whatnot. I'm just curious, what would be the reason why they don't take the test at home? I mean, it's just.
Right. The only thing was that, what was mentioned, that I could think of that was mentioned at my previous campus, that, some students do have access, and since they're competing, some of them might be, to get ahead of others in that sense, because they don't have access at home to the internet.
They compete for points, Mr. Mendez.
Yeah, I'm still,
And I can see your point.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Carmen, I guess this is one for you. Could you evaluate the possibility of why the pros and cons of AR assessment at home or versus school, and
I don't think
what
there's
would
a
be the
difference.
impact of that? Just out of curiosity, if you don't mind.
I mean, I think the only thing the biggest thing is cheating. I mean, it creates an unleveled playing field for the students if they're taking the quiz at home with a parent who's also read the book. Not saying that this is happening, but I think if you create a constant environment that is equal for everybody, I think that's safest for the students.
I guess I just, my intent is to have kids read
Right.
as often as possible. And, you know, I know that in the past, I would see a book in our child's backpack for days, and because they hadn't tested. So, knowing that the child read the book still, and didn't test, that still held the child back from accessing a second book to continue the reading. That's just my observation, you know, but.
And there are multiple solutions out there other than just AR. You may remember back in the day, we had to write a book report. Some districts have kind of come full circle, and you have some key questions that anytime a student reads a book, in order to get their points or however you're going to justify it, you have some guided questions, and it helps, one, they're open-ended. Two, it helps with their writing, which we struggle a little bit with, and not just our district. So there are several possibilities out there, but I can certainly look into the pros and cons of testing at home. I do have a separate question related to Mayan.
Sure.
And I didn't remember it until you brought this back to us today. Thank you. There are other programs out there
Right.
that have books online. Does our public library use a resource that allows them to access books online?
Last time I spoke to Mr. Salazar, but that was, I think it was last year. They were about to join the South Texas Library Consortiums, and they were going to join the other libraries and basically share the ebooks. They hadn't gone there yet. I don't know how far they've come with that plan right now, but that is something I could find out for you and let you know.
If that were the case, is it possible we could partner with them and give our students access to far more books than what the library that Mayan has right now?
That would be a great idea. We do have, through Mac and Via, we do have over 6,000 books also available, ebooks, through our co-op.
One more additional
Yes,
question. Sorry.
Sure.
And I had asked about it a while back, and because I'm noticing that even our kids are curious to learn Spanish. And I did pose this question to, I believe, the high school at the time, regarding Renaissance Spanish. Is it Renaissance? The Renaissance? Now, are those resources also available to students for them to take home, or is it just an on-site, on-school license?
Are you talking about Accelerated Reader? Renaissance is a company, and they have AR, Accelerated Reader, and then there's my own now.
No, there's a different one. I believe I mean, you can purchase French, German, Spanish, and it's a different, Rosetta Stone, thank you. Thank you, yes, Rosetta Stone.
Okay, I am not familiar with Rosetta Stone because we don't manage it, we don't have it at the libraries.
I was under the impression that the high school did have it,
The high school
They
does?
do?
Okay.
but not at the, okay, thank you. I guess the next question would be, how can we get it to the library? If you don't mind, kind of
That's a good
research
question.
that.
I'll look into it,
Okay.
yes.
Go ahead and go on, ma'am. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
No, it's okay. The next page on the outline is library service usage reports. We were asked to provide information on what types of reports we are providing for administration. And the librarians are providing periodic reports on AR, Mayan, and circulation reports. Some of them are doing every 2 weeks, some of them every month, some of them every 6 weeks. And we were also asked about providing book talk reports, but since those are very informal, and we usually do them like during student lunches or when the elementary librarians have their classes come in, especially to promote the new books, we will talk to them about them, give them a summary and that. So at the moment, we are not providing book talk reports. And the next item was the Google Suite apps. We were asked to see how many teachers are actually using the Google apps. And we surveyed the teachers, and I have it divided into 2 categories. The Google apps, other than Google Classroom, which is the Google Slides, Google Docs. Those apps In the elementary level, out of 260 teachers that were surveyed, 216 reported that they are using those apps to perform tasks such as submitting lesson plans, RTIs, creating presentations, letters, all those kinds of tasks. So that's 83% of the elementary librarians using the apps other than Google Classroom. At the secondary, 97%, out of 249 teachers surveyed, 241 are using the Google apps other than Google Classroom. And then Google Classroom at the elementary level, 13%, 34 out of 260 teachers surveyed are actually utilizing Google Classroom with their students. 13%. And that might be, I'm thinking, because secondary level students have cell phones and, you know, they have more easy access to Google Classroom than elementary students do. And in the secondary level, 101 teachers out of 249 surveyed are currently utilizing Google Classroom with their students. That's 44% of teachers. And that concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much, Ms. Martinez, for this information. It's, you know, it is real good information that we can actually take back and take into consideration. I know that we're working on initiatives on the computer, on the computer initiative, so this information is very helpful. And thank you very much again.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the data on gateway to graduation.
I think we have Mr. Guerra here to share some information.
Good afternoon, board members. The data I got was, I pretty much compare weekly how we're doing. I look at where we're at last year to this year. This is as of the 28th of Thursday. Around that time, we had 1,276 half credits, okay? This year, we have 1,338 half credits. So that's a difference of 62 half credits. So the students this year, around that time, we're ahead. Graduation comparison numbers, 62 last year around that time, we're at 57, so we're a little bit behind. We're at 5 below. But what you can see is that the students are more credits, so it means that many of these students came further back than last year. 22 of those students right now just need credits only. That means they've mastered all their assessments, okay? Total graduation, since that school was open, 661 students have graduated from Gateway. Yeah. PIMS data, you kind of see the breakdowns of ages. 15, you have 1, 16, you have 2, 17, 24, 18, 38, 19-year-olds, 14, 20-year-old, 1, 22-year-old, 2. So you have around 82. Now, this number changes daily because, example, today we had 3 new students that enrolled. Okay, so these numbers always change all the time. Classifications breakdown, you're looking at 9th grade, 4 of them, 10th grade, 14, 11th grade, 24, and 12th grade, 40. Yeah, 40.
On the 40, is it the ones that they just need credit probably?
22, yes, 22 of those. But again, they could change at any given time, classification. Usually we change on Mondays. We let them get all the credits, and then on Mondays we do the change classification. So we kind of celebrate them every morning. I think we have meetings every morning. Every morning we read out all the credits that were earned. We also give incentives for attending school every day. So we do a lot for them. As you can see, some of the stuff that we did for the graduation,
Yes,
it's not,
it was very nice.
thank you. It's not an ordinary graduation. You saw the balloons, you saw the photo booth where the parents get involved. That leads to the next part, the CIS. We bring the colleges to them. That day we had 10 colleges in the back, from TSSC, from UTRGV. We had barber schools.
Seguin also.
Yeah, we had them. We had Texas Workforce. So my deal is, as soon as you're done, hey, there's no excuse. Again, I'll give you another example from CS Community Schools, April 17th, from 10 to 2. We will have a FASTA. They're going to be in their university. I think it's TCU. I mean, not TCU. What is it, Brownsville?
TSC.
TSC. It's coming in. Financial aid for everybody. Parents are coming in. So those are things that they've done. CIS they've only been there 3 weeks. We just started with the program. Dr. Carmen brought them in, and they're fantastic. You can see some of the stuff they've done already. I mean,
Mr. Guerra, I got a quick question for you. Sorry for the interruption.
no.
Sir, as far as your, just for, I guess, for our knowledge here, these kids that are attending, of course, they go over, 18 years of age. There's several at 19, 20, 21, 22, 21. Are they from this local area? Or where's your parameters? I mean, do we get kids from Harlingen? I mean, what's your parameters for
We are
gate?
open district, but they do have to go through the same regulations that we have. They have to go to PEMS, they have to get okayed first. And, yeah, so some of them are from San Benito. There's very few from Harlingen that we get.
But we do have our limits open, so any
Yes.
kids that wants, okay.
Correct. And that goes back to, I think, what you wanted to target. Word gets out there, trust me, word does get out there, especially when we advertise like the graduations, the paper and all that. I get phone calls, instant messaging on Facebook. They're texting me, what do I need to do? Come in, So we talk to them from all over. I got kids from Brownsville in the past.
Oh, good, that's
So they
great.
do come in.
Awesome, thank you, sir, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Guerra, I've got a couple of questions, and thank you for the breakdown on the students.
CIS.
On CIS and even the PEMS. I'm just curious, and I always bring it up to Dr. Carmen in regards to the availability of the services to our population. And I noticed that you're at 82, and I think I've asked this question before, and I'll ask it again. What is the capacity for your program? Is there such a capacity? Are we anticipating on growth? And the reason that I ask this is that my understanding is that we have students still in our schools, at the high school and possibly even VMA or middle schools, that perhaps this type of service would better serve them than their traditional school. I think I ran across a parent regarding one young man that didn't want to go to school anymore, but he was already 16 in the middle school. And I'm going to share this. He felt that he couldn't utilize the services. I mean, I could be accurate, it's a one-sided story, but how do we dictate who's received and provided the services and who's not?
Because we have four teachers, four
Okay.
core teachers, that's all we have. So you're looking at 25 in a classroom. Now, the 82 that you see there, that's what it's at right now. It was at 100. If you go back and look at our numbers in the past comparison weeks, we were hitting 100. The reason we're at 82 right now is because we graduated some. Now, high school they just finished their quarter. They're analyzing their credits. And there's another group of kids, 13 to 22 students coming in from the high school. Now, these are seniors that need to graduate this year. So our focus right now is there. Now, it's not to say, going back to your question on the junior high, I had a pilot program with, actually this year, with Miller Jordan. We had a 16-year-old that was in 7th grade. That student came over in that year, also did 7th, 8th, and now is a freshman with me. So we look at individuals where they're at, and we look at their ages where they're at, but right now our focus is at the seniors because of that cohort group that needs to graduate. It doesn't mean that we don't take the juniors and the sophomores and the juniors and the freshmen, but because we have 4 teachers, one of my teachers right now is out on FMLA, and we have somebody else coming in from one of my other campus, so it makes it kind of difficult right now. But we are looking at moving over to that new campus and expanding. I know that's one of the visions that Dr. Carmen has.
And I think that's where I was going to go. So
But-
we are anticipating on accommodating more students. And to me, the way I look at it is that every child that's out there and are at risk, I mean, if this opportunity is given to them and they're successful, it's a success for our community,
Yes.
regardless,
Well, I'm with you.
whichever way we look at it. And it's just those, those conversations that I sometimes have with parents and they are heartbreaking because either they fell off the wagon or something's happening to their lives that all they want is an opportunity, you know, and sometimes they feel embarrassed to go back to their traditional school setting, and I get it, you know. A child at the age of 17 or 16 and seventh grade, it's going to probably be
It's
difficult
embarrassing.
emotionally for them. So I look forward to seeing a bigger expansion on the program and really bringing in the masses on it. And definitely next year, please call on me ahead of time. But I will be there, and I'll be honored to do your address.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Like I said, I'll come back with some data later, kind of give you an update across from the high school to the VMA to junior high, and maybe look at numbers projections for next year and where we're at. And I'll give those to Dr. Harmon, so Monday.
Under CIS information, I'm curious. This is very interesting, very, very interesting. To think that, you know, you need to buy baby formula, emergency baby formula for a child.
I had a phone call. Actually, that student called my teacher on a Saturday. And she called me. I got on the phone with my CIS representative. On a Saturday, they helped that student. So, I mean, I cannot
That's
tell
so
you.
sad. I mean, I'm glad that you were able to help her, but
Yeah, some of my students, I mean, when you think about it, education is.
clothing for 2 students? You had to go and buy clothing for 2 students?
She gets donations sometimes,
Okay.
and we look at those things. But,
Food for 4 students?
Yeah, sometimes, like I said, education sometimes falls in the backside, and if we don't handle the little things,
I'm glad that they're able to communicate with you, to use this service. I'm glad that they're able to help you and, you know, because this is sad. It really is.
well, the good thing is that, as you can see, because of the relationship that we have with our students, we're able to do what we can. You know, it's not me, it's the teachers, trust me. I get phone calls, you know, Saturdays, Fridays. Again, flexible schedule we have, and you kind of see our hours. Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Guerra.
thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carmen. Next item on the agenda is the report on the 2018 summer school plan.
Mr. Rivera, I think that's you.
Good evening again. You have a packet in front of you. We have been working on our summer school. No? We have been working on summer school for about 2 months. As it is right now, we're already starting to order our material. We're starting to make projections, et cetera. So as you can see, the package you have before you, we have summer school at La Paloma at the elementary level and Sullivan Elementary. So that is our country school and our city school. The dates below will outline which programs will run from June 4th through the 21st from 8 to 2 o'clock. We will be having our accelerated instruction, or those are students that did not meet promotion requirements or attendance requirements. EYS are special education students, and our SSI or STAR summer school. And these are elementary sessions, June 4th through the 21st. And this will run from 8 to 4. We will have our bilingual intensive reading for 2nd through 5th grade. June 4th through 28th, we will have Project Smart running from 8 to 2, Monday through Thursday are all the sessions. And on June 4th through 28th, we will have our K-1 bilingual students from 8 to 4. All of the sessions are Monday through Friday. I'm sorry, Monday through Thursday. And our STAR testing will begin on June 25th and run through June 29th. Teachers and student time will be 8 to 2. Do you have questions on the elementary? Okay. We will be having our middle school students going to Miller Jordan Middle School. This summer school will run from June 4th through the 21st, and it will encompass our accelerated instruction, attendance, EYS, SSI, STAR. We will have Project SMART running an additional week. All the summer schools there will run from 8 to 2, or all the programs. And again, our STAR testing will be on the same date, June 25th through 29th. At San Benito High School, we have our credit recovery that runs from June 4th through July 12th. The high school students will commence at 9 o'clock and will be dismissed at 12:30. We will have our EOC summer camp from June 4th through June 21st. Again, students will start at 9, leave at 12:30. Our EOC testing, again, is the same date, June 25th through the 29th. At Veterans Memorial Academy, we'll have our credit recovery from June 4th through July 12th. Students there will commence at 8 and be dismissed at 12:30. June 4th through June 21st, we will have our EOC summer camp from 8 to 12:30, and EOC testing will be the 25th through the 29th. As you know, all high school sessions will be at Veterans Memorial Academy. On the following pages, it's a short description of what each program encompasses. Would you like me to review that?
Just a clarification, the San Benito High School activities, is that happening at Veterans? Is that what you said? So there's no summer school at the high school?
The programs, as I understand, all the programming will be held at Veterans Memorial Academy this summer.
Okay.
We have that big electrical switchgear we're gonna replace, so we're gonna let them do that.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, that way you can work on one facility versus the other. So I'm assuming that all the preparations for even the summer meals and things like that are going to be moved over there in that respect.
We've been having meetings with Veterans Memorial and San Benito High School, as well as transportation, as well as food service. Like I said, for the last 2 months, we've been meeting with different groups of people to make sure that everything is well orchestrated and really organized for our students.
Plan of action for rollout information for parents, students, and all? I mean, have y'all worked on that?
Well, currently, we have our teachers or staff are applying online. We have close to 400 applications, including after-school program applications. That will cease on April 10th. After that, we will start our selection process, and teachers should be notified by April 17th. From there is where I've already met with principals, elementary and secondary. They will start receiving their forms and packets that will outline what needs to go home, what information needs to go home, what criteria is going to be used to identify students for the different programs.
No further questions. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the report of the 2018 after-school program summer camps.
It's gonna be Mr. Jack Garcia.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Carmen, administration, and the audience. Members of the board, I did have it's a two-page pages on the actual summer camps. As far as the summer camps are concerned, just to refresh the members of the board, that it is a requirement under our priority points from cycle 8 and cycle 9 to have at least a minimum of 6 weeks of summer camps. In relation to this, the only differences would be the PRC. The PRC will be going at least 8 weeks, and that is because of the situation as far as the enrollment being low, so that we can, in good faith, show to TA that we are taking necessary steps to fulfill our requirements as far as meeting with the PRC students. Operations will be from 8 to 2. We would be running from June 4th to July the 12th. and we're going to be hitting the basic academic assistance. I do have plans from the coordinators as far as in particular, like the high school, very STEM-related activities. We've got some flyers that eventually that we're going to be passing out to the parents and to the students as well. The elementary, as an example, is the theme is kind of an adventure camp. The coordinators come together and we try to develop some type of theme within the 4 component areas that we want to do. Like an example for the adventure camp, the first week is Animal Kingdom. So they'll be relating to that. So we do decorations and so forth, and then we go into different activities throughout the weeks. We find that sparks the interest on the students, and they want to return back because they want to learn something different for that particular week also as well. And then, of course, I've been working with Ms. Sevillon because I know we're both have the online app for our district employees, so I know she's getting a lot of applicants for summer camps as well. So we're going to have to sit down and sort through the applicants and then make a decision on who will be employed and so forth. The summer camps also involve some field trips. TA does allow a little bit more leeway on summer. That could be also relating to going to the UTRGV Observation Center at South Padre Island. We are looking at floating classroom also as well. That's out in the Port Mansfield area where they get to experience classroom activities on the Bay Area also as well. And those are different activities, something different that we'll be working on. We've done partnerships with the Hidalgo Museum also in Edinburgh as well. They have some summer programs that we've worked with them as well. We do estimate, members of the board, one thing that I try to balance out is to try to make sure that every student in our district, across the district, has an opportunity to go to one of these camps. That said, my focus always has to be in relating to the students in the rural areas just as much as in the city. And that's the case in relating to the host sites. For an example, Riverside Middle School will be hosting all of elementary and middle school within the rural area. And I kind of call it the horseshoe because I know Oscar de la Fuente students would be going to Riverside, Leal students all in that area to kind of balance it out. And I think that's closer to them than coming into the city. Also, Ed Downs Elementary would be hosting the elementary, and then we'd have middle school, Miller Jordan would be having both BC and Miller students, and then we have the 9th grade and high school at VMA. And I gave estimated numbers right there as far as how many, because we fluctuate. Keep in mind when summer school ends, we get an additional, probably an average of 150 students that want to participate the last 2 weeks since summer school ends at the end of the month of June as well. So I went ahead and put that there. Also, keep in mind, we do service students from non-grant sites as well. So we service all students in our district. So I'm with the funding that you all have graciously been able to give to the program. That's the type of funding that I save for the students from the non-grant sites as well.
Mr. Garcia, I got a question for you, sir.
Yes.
As far as the fluctuation or the estimation of the amount of students that are going to attend, how are you with staffing? Do you have people in reserve, or are you just going to staff it fully and then?
Usually what we do, Mr. Lopez, is we'll have a registration night, like a week or two before,
Okay.
and we get estimated numbers. But what we do, we fill in the basic core subjects for teachers first. And then if we feel like there's an overflow in one particular area, we'll move teachers to the respective camps where staffing is needed. I'm knock on wood, I haven't had that problem where we've actually had plenty of students, and the parents they line up early for registration night for summer camps. We try to do that, and that will give us a rough estimate where we're at. Because the reality is that Monday morning, we're gonna get another 150 or 100 parents show up that morning for registration as well. So we have to consider those that are gonna be coming in.
Well, I think it's cool that actually, that it allows our staff, you know, the opportunity to make a little bit of extra money, you know, in the summer. So that's the whole avenue I was, you know, heading towards, so.
I mean, we have, one thing that I want to stress to the board is that, you know, you have those employees that have been working during the course of the fall and spring. But there are opportunities for staff that didn't and want to just work during the summer. The one thing that I do stress, Mr. Lopez, is that if they're going to make that commitment, they make the commitment for the duration of the 6 weeks. I can't have a teacher tell me, you know what, Mr. Garcia, I can work the first week, but I can't work the second, and then I'll come back on the third, and no, that's not gonna work for us, because we need them there during the duration of the 6 weeks. Another opportunity that we do give, and as a matter of fact, I gave it to Dr. Phillips for HR for the advertisement of college mentors. They would have to go through the Region 1 app for that. I occasionally do obviously hire students that are from our area, from San Benito, where they're going into education or another field and they want to work during the course of the 6 weeks. They enjoy it. They're actually one of some of my best employees that give a lot of motivation to the students in the camps. And that's just for the summer only.
Great, thank you, sir, appreciate it.
So they're gonna they go through Region 1?
They'll go to the Region 1 app on the HR.
Okay.
I know, Mr. Garcia, I know last year, your after-school program extended another week or so because of funding. Do you anticipate that happening again?
I don't, but I'm going to be honest, we're starting to look at budget reviews I've looked at probably about 2 or 3 campuses, and I've actually had the reverse where there might be going over budget, so I need to look at that thoroughly still. But if that's an opportunity, I mean, we can continue providing that service for the students, assuming that, you know, with the gracious of approval of Dr. Carmen.
I've got a couple of questions, Mr. Garcia, and this is in reference, because I think the next item is the 21st century, and I've got a few questions on that. Regarding your anticipated budget for the summer, do we have to come up with any more funding, or are we set for the rest of the year? I guess that's-
For the summer.
We are set for the rest of the year.
Okay, so there's no additional cost to us?
No,
Okay.
not for the summer.
So in addition to that, how long has the after-school program been in existence? And I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay. It's been going on for, this is the 19th year. Funny that you say that, Mr. Mendez. I'll just say that we're getting ready to do an alumni association.
Oh, nice.
And next year, members of the board, we do want to do a special logo for the 20th anniversary. It'd be 20 years next year. So
After-school program only? Not the PhD? Just the
no, and including the
Oh,
PhD, it would
including
start
the
off
PhD, okay.
1999.
Wow.
Yeah.
20
Anyway, I'm sorry.
It's okay. You may want to take some notes on this, because you're going to have to come back with some homework on
Okay.
this. A couple of things, and of course, starting off with the years in existence, and do you have any numbers from conception to now, as far as the impact of number of participations by year? And the total amount of funding received by, I'm assuming by the grant, and what the district's contribution was on that? Now, and again, it's going to jump into the 21st century, and I'll pause there. But those are some of the items that I'd like to see the after-school program showcase in our next meeting, because I'll probably be bringing you back on board. And the reason that I say this is that in conversations with people or constituency and whatnot, you know, they tend to associate the after-school program with chess only. And one of the things that I've always said about the curriculum committee is this is an opportunity for your programs, for you all to advocate for your programs and to showcase what you've all accomplished and what y'all are anticipating on providing for our kids. I can tell you this much, from my oldest child to the youngest, they've been in participation with the program, but yet I think many of our community members tend to miss that site. They don't know what's out there, outside from the traditional chess programs, the folklorico, the conjunto, and all of those different activities. So I would like to give that opportunity to you, if not today, perhaps in May, to come up and provide us with your accolades. And moving forward with the 21st century, I mean, that's coming up very soon, and I'm assuming that you're working on that as well. And at the same token, you know, what do we anticipate? And I'll stop there for a minute. So just bear with me on those thoughts and those ideas. I shared with Dr. Carmen a few minutes ago, and this is in reference to the Gateway program and yours, because it's on the agenda, and it's fresh on my mind. And I noticed that a lot of the information that's being delivered from our district, it stipulates the school, and it doesn't stipulate the district. And I know that we have the icon of the district and then the school, but it doesn't give credit to Gateway, and it doesn't give credit to the after-school program. So somehow, we need to work together and find that median to make sure that your program is also being identified, and your program as well. I think that's important. You guys are doing wonderful things for our community, and it's imperative that the community knows what's really out there, outside from chess. So, just an idea, okay? So, go on.
No, I'm gonna interrupt you and change it. Eloy and I just went to the hospital last week, and we had the folklorico dancers from the high school. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. And we had the mariachi with their brand new uniforms. But oh my gosh, Jack, and I kept telling them it's the after-school program, and they were all very, very happy with it. I mean, the doctors were there, the nurses were there. It was beautiful, Jack, just to see them dancing. I even wanted to dance, but they didn't let me. But that's okay, I told them next time. But it was beautiful. Everything was the after-school program, Hijito. It was very nice.
What school was that?
It was the high school, and then one of my mariachis was from Berta Cavazza, my 7th grader.
Okay,
He's with the program, yes, he is. And the violins were beautiful.
Mr. Garcia, I think as you can see where the board is, we're focused on, and we can continuously to focus on, is the marketing of our school system, okay? That's imperative. I mean, I can't say that enough, but, one of the things is if we're gonna wanna, market our district of all the wonderful things that we're accomplishing, then, number one, we need to be positive, right? And number two, we have to somehow reach the parents and let them know exactly what our wonderful school district is doing and where all the resources that we're putting together, to make sure that their kids are being provided with the best education possible. And, it's kind of, disheartening sometimes when you hear that they really don't know, But, there's a variety of different ways that we can all brainstorm to figure that out. But you guys are doing a great job, and we're providing good resources for our kids.
Mr. Lopez and members of the board, I think, we as a program try hard to promote and advertise what some of the items, we have Facebook, we have a Twitter page. Matter of fact, Ms. Celia Longoria, for the first time, we did our ASP primetime show, and informative, giving information out to the community. But
I saw that.
I know it's still difficult, and we do hit all four component areas, which is the academics, enrichment, family engagement, and college readiness. We try as best as possible. I think what sometimes comes about is we would love to service the entire campus after school. And the reality is it's very difficult, and it's not reasonable. So lots of times when I do hear criticism or complaints, to be honest, I think it's sometimes a lot of where a parent was unable to get their child into the program, and then they have a different interpretation of what the program is and the bottom line is to help that student. We have drop-ins. We can have drop-ins that a student that wants to learn, an example, the violin, they can learn the violin as a drop-in. But the problem is that the parent wants them the entire week, not just that Monday and Friday. You see where I'm going with this. So it's a balance that we try to do, working with the parent and the student and the amount of required slots that we have available for a campus. And I'll be honest, we go beyond the requirement of TA. I know every single coordinator has gone beyond what the number is.
We know.
And we've been working with them, especially when it comes to multiple family members in the unit, where I have a younger brother that's a first grader and the older brother is a fifth grader. Of course I'm going to bring both of them in. Why would I want one out and one in? It doesn't make sense. So those are factors that we look at when we're doing enrollment and attendance. So, and to answer your question, Mr. Mendez, yes, I mean, I'll be happy to share some of those figures with you. It's pretty powerful numbers, to say the least. At the same time, I caution you, Mr. Mendez, that we are competitively trying to get funds, and I would not want all information out also as well, sir.
No, absolutely, and that's why I'm pushing you to May or June if I need to.
Yeah.
But I guess we can, does anybody have any other questions on the after-school program?
On the after-school program,
On the-
after-school program, or on cycle 10?
That's next, that's the next item on the
Okay,
agenda.
okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so moving along onto item number 9.
Okay.
Update on 21st Century Learning Community Center Cycle 10, and I'll finish my comment on that. And definitely do let us know if we need to push it further back. That way, we won't reveal any information on your competitive
Oh,
grant.
sure.
But nonetheless, I think it's, again, going back to the program, it's a wonderful program. My kids experienced it, and I know that there's many, many kids that are going through the pipeline and they see the impact. It's a model that help latchkey kids, in reality, that, and those kids that are actually engaged after school will definitely reap the benefits at the end of the day. So thank you for providing that service for over 19 years, Mr. Garcia. So moving on, update on the 21st Century Learning Community Center Cycle number 10.
Members of the board, since we are in a competitive section right now as far as 21st century, I would rather be more verbal with you currently right now on this information. I'm going to just give you updates at the national level and at the state level. I actually was having a discussion with Dr. Carmen about this, that the Congress passed the budget just recently, and one of the things that they passed was we feel that it's a big win, is that Congress passed a $20 million increase for 21st century after-school programs. And I will say this, there are bipartisan support across the board in relation to 21st century after-school programs. Red states, blue states, it doesn't matter. And where we were at the beginning of the year, where the proposed budget was to completely eliminate after-school programs, they actually increased it by $20 million. The big announcement came in January in Houston for our directors of the Cycle 10. I can tell you, just to give you an update of what has changed briefly, they have capped it from 1.7 to 1.5 million. That's the difference between Cycle 9 and Cycle 10. However, one of the things that they did do differently is there's no decreases in the 3 years of funding, whereas Cycle 9, there was a decrease of 3% and 5%. So that's one of the big changes that I see. Now, a new organization can apply for 5 years of funding. That's still available. And then what came out just recently is that instead of originally, they said they were going to only award about 20 to 23, the state announced that they had enough funding for a minimum of 30. So I'm anticipating between 30 and 40 awardees for Cycle 10.
Wow.
Going in line to what Mr. Board Member Mendez just mentioned right now about our history. We have a history. We're state recognized, national recognized, and I want to say to the board, the realities is that the Cycle 8 is going to end. And with that comes some great ideas, great things, impact that Cycle 8 has done. But in order for us to be competitive, we must move on to new ideas. I can't stress that enough. And the realities of having it for so many years, we have to consider outside the box a little bit. So say, and if you all recall on Cycle 9, we established a partnership with Lyford CISD. I felt that the need would be similar before the RFA came out. I figured that they were going to go in the same direction as they did Cycle 9, in which they did. They are giving priority points for sustainability plans. They are giving points for partnerships also as well, and that hasn't changed. That in turn made me start working since that Houston meeting. I can tell you in the Cycle 10 design, it is a rural concept grant, and the focus will be in our rural areas. It is also a regional plan, okay? And currently, right now, I'm all right sharing with the partners right now because it is official. Both their boards have met already, and our official partners will be San Palita ISD and Rio Hondo ISD would be our partners in this new design. I feel very confident that the support of the two districts, meeting with their administration and having some discussions maybe with one of their board members. I think that it's a good fit, you know, our share services, obviously, we would be getting the majority of the share of the funding because we are the fiscal agent, and they would be our partners. We would be doing five centers. Rio Hondo would probably be doing 3, and San Palita would probably be doing 2. So I think we're all in need, all of us, and I think it's a good approach going forward at this time. Now that said, when I mentioned about Cycle 8, you know, members of the board, it's difficult. It's a challenge ahead because of the fierce competition. Without a doubt, I network with the people across the state of Texas, so I'm getting ideas of what they're doing, but we're going in the right direction. You know, but we never know what could happen when it gets to Austin. So.
Are you aware of any local competitors?
Several, Mr. Mendez. Our neighboring districts are all applying. I can only think of maybe 2 districts are doing partnerships as well, as right now. So what helps San Benito is their commitment as the board as far as funding some of the non-grant sites. That helps a lot in continuing funding. In other words, they're seeing, hey, well, you're asking for funding, but what are you doing, kind of deal. And we have been doing that, so that helps us a lot.
And as far as our grant writer, we're still utilizing Dr. Cavazos, who we've used historically.
As of right now, yes, Dr. Carmen has approved Dr. Cortez's.
Cortez,
Yes,
sorry.
she has a grant writing services, yes.
Okay, and Dr. Cortez has totaled how much for the district since she's helped us?
Between $15 and $19 million.
All right.
Sir, I got a good question, Jack. Okay, so as far as the money distribution amongst these San Perlita and Rio Hondo, how does that work?
Well, it works based on, there's requirements that the TA requires for each center. A coordinator, an example, we must have one. But San Benito would have the family engagement specialist. That's a requirement position. That would be a San Benito employee. We base it on numbers of students that are gonna be serviced there. That's where the bulk. Now, you can get funding up to $1,000 per student. But in comparison, let me give you an example. San Pelita's elementary has 132 students. I mean, we have campuses at 500, 400. Well, obviously, we're gonna be getting more funding for it because our population is larger than theirs. So it's based on their student population at the center and how many students are they gonna target within that center. It would be unrealistic to say that all 132 are gonna be serviced. That's not realistic. So it's gonna be a smaller portion than that, Mr. Lopez. So
Okay.
we look at all that as well.
So I guess it's good that we're actually pairing up with San Perlita and Rio Hondo since we're a bigger district, so we should get more of the funds, correct?
We would get the majority of the funds, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you.
Now, on Cycle 8, we have partners, right?
The Cycle 8, not district partners, we have partners to provide services for the students, Mr. Mendez. Cycle 9 is the only one that we have a partnership district.
So they're not gonna be included on the next cycle? Is that my understanding, or how does that work?
You mean for Cycle 9? Or?
For Cycle 10?
No,
No?
they would not be, like, you mean Lyford?
Right.
No, because all their campuses are being serviced through Cycle 9 currently right now, and they would be ineligible because they currently have programming right now.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes,
Go ahead.
I have one. Jacko. What if we do not get the grant? What's gonna happen? Be
Well-
realistic. What if we do not get the grant?
Okay, well, I mean, Dr. Carmen, I mean, maybe you want to share on this.
Sure. So if we don't get the grant, we would be looking at having to come up with, I guess on cycle 10, over $800,000 if we wanted to continue services at the same level as we have been.
San Benito schools only?
That's correct. And over 800, I think it's cycle 10.
It was
Give or take.
estimates between 700 and 800, somewhere around there.
So the board would have to look to see if there were funding sources to come up with that, whether it were to increase our M&O tax rate, or if there are other programs that we could cut to come up with that difference. We're in the middle of a biennium now, but we're okay for one more year anyhow. When the state meets in a year, depends on what they do with state funding. If they hold level, no new money. If there happen to be new money, we could use it for the after-school program. If they make cuts, we
So
have to
you're saying
respond
that-
accordingly.
If we don't get it, we can raise property taxes? Is that what you're saying?
I said that's one option.
Okay, that's one option.
Yes, ma'am. Right now, we dedicate some of our M&O tax, some of our tax money to make our bond payment, our INS payment. And so the board does have the authority to raise taxes on the M&O side to generate funds if the grant were to go away. That's one option. Another
Okay.
option, we could find other programs to reduce, or we could continue with the after-school program in a lesser degree and not fund that full $700,000 or $800,000, and just cut back on some of the services. So those are all options we'd have to look at based on the reality of dollars and cents.
Doc, I got a question for you. Since you mentioned that, so okay, so this grant writer, okay, so I'm assuming they go out and find grants for us and so on and so forth. So how is that grant writer paid? Do we pay them up front, or do we pay them when we get the grant? Or how does that work? They work on a percentage, or?
No, they get paid for their services regardless of whether they get the grant or not. And that's pretty standard. Some will do it on a contingency basis, but for the most part, they're gonna want their money up front because they're doing all the work on the front end, and so we pay that from local funds.
And she's,
How much is that? If you don't mind me asking.
For the Cycle 10 grant writing, our share of that is $27,000.
And what is, when you say share, so we're sharing it with San Perlita and Rojando, that cost?
Each of those districts will have their share that they've negotiated with the grant writer as well. Our share is $27,000.
but she's been writing for you how many years, Jack?
I'm going to go back to cycle 6. She's
6, 7, 8,
probably
9, 4 years?
well, but some have been 5 years, so at least 10 years.
Okay,
She-
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I would estimate around that amount of
Wow.
time, but
okay.
yeah, I mean, I would work on some type of breakdown for Dr. Carmen to see in relation to that, but, I just want to be very upfront and transparent with the realities of the competition. It's fierce. So every point there's no room for error on any lost points.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Okay, moving on. Item number 10, committee concerns. All right, no committee concerns. Oh, yes, I do. I completely forgot that I just remembered. No, and this is in reference to the calendar. I'm assuming that we approve the calendar, correct? Okay.
Yes, sir,
Something
that's
to
correct.
consider for future. And this is in reference to today, actually. I was walking through schools and whatnot, some of the questions that were posed, how come we didn't have today off? And of course, some of the parents are, tired from Easter break and whatnot. So I don't remember, I know that was calendar C, and I believe that we gave up the day after Super Bowl? Or something like that, so that's a break, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so, moving forward, and again, putting kids first, where would students perform better? After Easter or after Super Bowl? So that's a question that I'd like to pose for future consideration in the calendar, to really take that into consideration and really put that into perspective.
In regards to that also, we also, when we looked at that, even for next year, we know that we have state testing coming up, so that's one of our areas that we looked into as to why we didn't take this Monday off and next year's.
Thank you very